Hey everyone, Forever in Love and Counting here. My name is Anthony,
I'm Serena.
and we are on our month of thankfulness. We actually didn't do one yesterday, and we're actually doing two today for day 13
And
and
14.
14. And yeah, how was your day today?
It was okay. It was
How
better than yesterday.
yeah,
So
what do you have today?
today I'm thankful for Tegan, our third daughter. She taught me patience every day of her 21 years on this planet. She is teaching me patience. So,
Was there something that she did today?
no, just every day she teaches me to not kill her, which is patience. So, she was the baby for 4 years. In a way, she still thinks she's the baby when she's not, but she still thinks she is. And so I have to remind her sometimes that her mouth writes checks that her butt can't cash. And so, but I would go to jail for her if I had to. So, and I love her dearly. Definitely has my attitude. And sometimes I have to remind her that she's 21 and not 41. So, but she also gives me a different way to look at things. So, and it's a good thing.
Today I would be thankful for the memories I've had from people that are no longer here. I was talking with a friend at work today, and he mentioned something about like the cyber truck or something like that. How it was just like it was just a big vehicle, And he mentioned about him having like a Cadillac or something, this old beat up Cadillac when he first got driving. And then I remember, driving your grandmother's car. She
A
had like
Lincoln
that
Town
Lincoln
Car. Oh,
Tank.
not a town car, a Mark 8.
Market, yeah. I said it was a town car. I didn't know, but remember we drove it a couple times, and for like early '90s,
Oh yeah, because
that was like high class,
it
man.
was totally loaded.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it didn't have leather seats. It had crushed velvet seats.
I remember it had like the little keypad thing.
Yeah.
So now a lot of these new cars, you can just leave your keys in the car and you can use the keypad to lock. And that car had one. It
Yeah.
was like early '90s. That was like you had to remember the keypad and stuff like that. Just remembering, talking about that and just remembering your grandmother. All the crazy stories she had. She worked at this little convenience store and everything.
Yeah.
She, those girls would, these girls would come into the
She worked in a really bad part of
yeah
here in Florida. She worked in where some ladies worked,
yeah.
and they would come in and she would call them, she would tell them that they can't be taking baths in the bathroom. Like they'd have to go somewhere else and take a bath. So,
She was feisty, wasn't she?
mhm.
But she loved her grandkids. That's for damn sure. None of them could do wrong
Nope.
to her.
Nope. And she was the best. She used to come, her and my grandfather, who's not here anymore either, they would come up from Florida and they would make a big loop and they would go to Georgia. They would stop in Georgia and they'd pick up my cousins there. And then they'd go to Texas and pick up my cousins there. Then they'd come back around and pick up me and my sister in Tennessee. And then we'd all come back down to Florida and we'd stay at the dairy and, we would just stay.
They own that big, like a dairy farm, wasn't it? Where was it at? Do you remember?
Yeah, now it's Odessa is where it was at. So it's down there. The tree is still there. My grandfather's brother, Dickie, he's still alive, and him and his family all went down to where the dairy was. And it's a big convenience store or strip mall or something, but the tree is still out in the parking lot that was at the beginning of the driveway. And it was so cool because we used to go and like there was a there where the dairy barns were. So the dairy barns were here, and then the hay barn was here, and then around over in here there was a sink like quicksand, and we used to tell like because me there's only two cousins that are older than me, and then it's me. And we used to tell all the little ones that if they got on our nerves, we were going to take them over to the quicksand and drop them in.
I remember you telling me about that.
We wouldn't, and then they would scream and cry. But we'd go out and um, we would like pick on the cows, and the bulls would come running at us, and we'd hightail it off, man, through them fields to the fences, and we'd get to the fences before the bulls.
Oh, they're not happy.
No, it was. I mean, that that going to your grandparents' house and like just being kids, like that was it. We were allowed to go down there and just be kids. We could get into all kinds of trouble and not get in trouble, and we could eat whatever we wanted, and we could do pretty much anything that we wanted to do. Besides, I mean, as long as it was on that dairy, we could do whatever we wanted. If we went off somewhere, we better be on our best behaviors, because if we didn't, you couldn't duck. You couldn't duck fast enough. My grandmother would swing so fast.
Yeah, I remember that's how it was like, you know, with my grandparents. It was like I remember the other day we're at the store and I seen this kid like with his grandmother, or it was the girl. She was the grandmother, and the girl was like just walking all over the grandmother, you know. And I was like, my grandparents would never go for that, you know. Just like
It would have knocked me out.
this kid wasn't listening. This that wouldn't take too long before you get back in line, you know.
You would you got either two options. You can go to the bathroom or you can go to the car. Which one do you want?
My grandmother used to tell me, she's like, "Do you want to go get the switch, or you want me to do it?" I'm like, "Oh man." Now
My
I'm
papa
good.
wouldn't let my grandmother's like switch us,
Yeah,
but
she always warned us, but she never did nothing.
he was the get away with anything
Oh
and
yeah,
do everything,
no, I
and
can
she
remember.
was the more disciplinary. I remember one year I was here, it was just me and Jessica. We were here for something, I don't remember what, but my papa got me up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go for breakfast.
That's what my grandfather always breakfast early in the morning. It's
Yeah.
like, why so
So
early?
we would go and have breakfast, and he knew every single person in the place. We'd get our breakfast and we'd eat it. Then he would take me to Walmart and let me get a toy. Then he would take me to a convenience store, and not my grandmother's, just to a convenience store. And he would give me the money, and I'd only be like 8 or 9, and he'd give me the money to buy the lotto ticket. And the lady behind the counter would always be like, I can't sell her the lotto ticket. And he's like, it doesn't matter, because if
Yeah.
you win, she's getting the money. So he would buy the lotto ticket, and I would stand there and I would scratch it. And if I remember one time I won $100, and she went to give the money to my papa, and my papa was like, I done told you, if she won, she got the money. And so the lady's like, I can't physically hand her the money. And he goes, well, then put it on the counter, because it's her money. And I remember, like, at the end of it, we'd always go to the convenience store my grandmother worked at, and I would walk in with like armful of like just whatever. Like one year I had like an Alf and some other stuff. And I remember walking in and her going, Glenn, I told you. And I'd be like, what's up, Graham?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, just my grandparents lived like right next door to us, so that was sometimes good, sometimes bad, but but they were always there. So that was what I remember. And I remember like we talked about before one time, like our grandparents like basically lived like almost in the same town. Huh?
Oh, no.
Yeah. But they basically lived in the same town,
I'm sure they knew each
and
other.
I wondered if they knew each other because we both remember, like, we had talked before, like there was this like feed store in town. It's not there. Well, I think it's there, but it's like a garage or something. But
Something
we would go
else.
up there, and he would get, dog food because my grandmother raised dogs, and I think we had like chickens or something like that. So he'd get like all this feed.
And a
It,
goose.
yeah, oh, yeah, the goose, and he never would give them any money, and they're like, just put it on my account or whatever, my tab or whatever you want to call it. And every once in a while, rare was I there, he would, you know, he'd pay up. Excuse me, pay up for like whatever he'd been
Yeah.
taking. Like we go up there and get like small hardware, like screws and nails and crap, and you know, but stuff like that don't happen anymore.
Now you got to pay for everything.
Yeah,
I kind of miss that our girls didn't have that.
yeah, yeah.
And I hate that for them.
They had one for sure, and but he's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, they knew your grandmother.
Well, everybody but Trinity.
Yeah,
She doesn't remember her.
she was so young,
Yeah. She doesn't remember that much.
but they never met. I think Ty, she met my grandparents, but that was like right before they moved, and she was like a year old or something, wasn't
Yeah.
she?
And she met Dottie,
Yeah.
but she was, I think, when we brought her home from the hospital, Dottie was there.
Hmm.
But I think that was, So I do wish that they would have had that, but it isn't in the cards.
Yeah.
So
But I was gonna go with another one, but I think that was pretty good by itself. But yeah, the memories we had with the ones that are passed on, it's just memories, and just you try to hope that you can remember them.
yeah. I remember the first time I went out to eat. I'm sitting here looking at the picture of Dad. I remember the first time we went out to eat. Do you remember?
Chili's?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I ordered
Oh, dude.
fajitas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd never been to a Chili's before. I like fajitas. Anthony and Dad are sitting across from me, right? Or no, you're sitting beside me.
Yeah,
Dad's
yeah,
sitting
yeah,
in
yeah.
front of us.
And you ordered, and he's like, "Are you sure about that?"
Yeah,
And
he's
I'm
like, "Are
like,
you sure you want fajitas?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, is there something wrong with them? And he's like,
"Oh, they're
"No,
really good."
they're really good." And I was like, "Then yes, I want them." So if anybody's ever had chili fajitas,
Oh
they
yeah,
bring them out on a sizzling
it's like
plate.
loud too.
And
Walking through the
so they're
restaurant.
walking through and they sit, and Anthony and Dad are dying laughing. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
There was probably more times of stuff like that happened. I remember. I think I told you, like, my grandparents' thing was um well, they called it dinner, but it was like lunch, late lunch or something. So I remember like they always got like dressed up and like, we're going to dinner, and it's like, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we used to always go to this place. It was Morrison's Cafe. It was at the mall of all places. And from like where we lived to the mall, that was like a good 40-minute drive, just to go
Yeah.
get something to eat. And we went there one time, and I told you the ice cream
Hmm.
dealer, and like we ate and everything. I'm sorry, it wasn't Morrison's. It was called something else, but it was,
It was a cafeteria.
cafe. Like you would walk. It wasn't a buffet, but like you would walk up and like your plate,
Hmm.
everything would be right there, and you just take the plate. So like so you could get dessert, and they got like soft serve ice cream and blah blah blah, and me and grandma walked up there to the soft serve, and she wanted like vanilla, and I think that's where I got from because I only like vanilla. And she went to crank down the vanilla, and the freaking handle came off, and it just kept
So
going
what
and
you have to
going.
remember
Oh,
now
yeah,
is
yeah.
Grandma was raised in Iowa,
Hmm.
and she was a farm girl. So she wasn't petite. She
Hmm.
was kind of big,
She was a big girl.
and her mind was already starting to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and she would get flustered very
Oh, yeah,
fast, and
very
she
easy.
would get anxious really fast. Um,
Oh dear.
and now, like, grandpa
Oh yeah, he's.
also was a farmer, a farm guy from Missouri.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, from Missouri. I think that's where their land was. And
from the army.
from the army, and so he's a
Stern.
stern, by the book. But now when it came to grandma, he was very soft spoken, and he because I think he knew, like, and so now here's the story again.
So
So she pulls the thing and it breaks.
the handle breaks, but the ice cream keeps flowing. So it's like you got your little bowl, and then she's like, they're like that. I look back at Grandpa, and he's dying laughing. I started laughing. She's like, ah, she didn't know what to do.
And
It
she's
was
like,
like,
gee.
yeah. And finally, somebody walked up and just unplugged it out of the wall. Meanwhile, it's like there's ice cream on the floor. It's all over the place. And Gene, I call him Gene. Grandpa's like, "You're gonna have me eat all that ice cream, Pat." Just like, "Will you stop eating?" Just you. You better bring that to the table. It was just like, oh my gosh, they're ridiculous. But yeah, he was another like early breakfast, and I remember like we lived next door, and he'd have me come over for breakfast, and always cheese grits. He'd always make cheese grits. I guess that's where I like him, but he extra cheesy, and that was I guess that's he probably had grits like from the farm, and that's probably what
Yeah,
they grew up on. And you know,
because during the Depression and
yeah, because
in that
remember
era.
we used to get the grits in that yellow bag. I don't even
Hmm.
know if they make it
Yeah, they do.
anymore, but that's all he would buy was just that. That
Yeah,
was it. If those weren't any, then we're not getting grits. Just but yeah, that was you know that's where stuff like that where you wish you can the
yeah,
kids would have met them. You but by that time the kids would have met them, all that stuff is in the past, and
yeah,
yeah, that's like remember we talked like the last memory. Like I remember with grandma, like they had eventually they moved to West Virginia, and we all went up there. And, grandpa passed, and we all went up there, and grandma.
oh, she did get to see Ty.
Yeah, because we
No, 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 no. Me, Dad, and Ange went up there.
after that.
Before that, Grandpa got to see her too. Was when they first moved up there. They weren't quite on the mountain yet. They were down
Yeah,
below down in the valley. And me, Dad, and Ange
I couldn't
and
get off
Ty,
work.
yeah, we went up there.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I forgot about it too. And then I just remembered that we went up there and we stayed in that little house.
Oh my gosh.
So, but it was that I remember that. But then we went back up there after Papa passed, after Grandpa passed.
And I remember like when we went there to go, when grandpa passed, and she was, she was sick, and she was old. I don't know, that's crazy to say, but she got older, and it was hard for her to get around, and she basically just hung out in her chair and to her
Yeah,
bedroom, and
she
kind of
lost so much weight.
she lost a lot of weight, and it was just. And I remember my uncle told me like it's this isn't grandma that you remember, so you got to remember. And that was hard to see her because you just knew that like she's not going to be around very much longer, and
And
but
she wasn't.
she was so happy to see us, like she remembered, and I thought I was so scared because like I thought like she wasn't going to remember us. And she did. She remembered us, and I remember like she hug and big old kiss from grandma. I'll remember that. That's like the last one I got, and I remember we were sitting there. And I've told this I don't know how many times, but we were sitting there. And it was like strange. I forget. You were sitting like over somewhere, and it
Mhm.
was like me, Dad. I think like me and Dad. Anyway, she was
She
sitting
was
like
sitting. Dad
to
was
the
sitting
side.
in Grandpa's chair, and she was sitting in hers.
So she's looking. She's just sitting there, just smiling and smiling, and she's looking at me, and she was just dead stare, like staring at me. And I just kind of like looked aside, and like, and finally it was like, go to Dad. I'm like. what is she looking at? Like, she won't stop looking at me. And he's like, well, she's just happy to see you. And I'm like, and I remember I said something to her like, "Hey, Graham," and she's like, "Hey, Jackie," and that was my dad's name was Jack, and
But she called him Jackie
Jackie, and she thought I was dad, from
when he was younger.
yeah, because I didn't have a beard or nothing, and Dad never had a beard when he was younger, so I guess she thought that I was dad, from then. So he's like, "Just go with it," and that was kind of hard, but yeah, yeah, that's was like one of the last times. That was the last time I seen her. Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. But I feel bad that sometimes like our kids aren't going to have those memories.
Yeah.
Well, they do of
Of dad.
of my dad, and they will of your dad. But it just that's the hard part.
Yep.
They never got to be the grandparents. Never got to have the grandparents
Grandparents
that
that
we
we
had.
did. Yeah.
But, it's crazy. You have anything else, Lou?
Nope.
I appreciate if you made it to the end. Thanks for watching. A little bit longer for this one. And since we didn't do one yesterday, I thought we'd kind of double it up. But um, thanks for some new subscribers that we had on. I appreciate you guys subscribing and joining along with us.
Thank you.
And we're going to try to continue the month of thankfulness. Keep going. And 30 days November, right?
Yeah.
How does that saying go?
I have no idea.
30 days November,
I have no idea.
I'm gonna figure it out, and I'll
Okay.
say it one time. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'll have to Google it. Is that all we got, babes? All right, guys. Until tomorrow. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye.